wanna take you sky. Take you sky. Review me right and review me. Stuck in the review me right and review me.
A real clockwork soldier.
Generation Orange in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everybody, and why is it? You know what? Is it because I'm not? We're usually not used to having. There we go. There being sunlight when we're doing a show. How are you doing, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Gen Orange. My name is Edson Ochoa, and accompanying me is obvious as always. Excuse me, I can't even talk today. Is our co-host Sean Ringrose. Sean, what's up, man? It's been a while. You're on mute, my friend.
Okay.
There we go.
Just kidding. It's been less than 2 weeks, actually. It has only been a week and 6 days since we last had a show. Thanks to CCL, thanks to me being sick. But on the flip side, I am nearly not sick anymore, but I still do have a little bit of a cough. I promise I'm not dying. Edson, run things for a minute, please.
So I want to say hi to everybody that's out here in the chat. I want to say hi to Blues Fan, Callow. You have Jake on, Darby, Cisco, Pat. Welcome everybody to. We also have Ben, who's on as well. Welcome everybody to the show. We hope it's gonna be a good discussion, guys. Really, trust me, believe me, we're gonna have the greatest discussion ever, the greatest Dynamo podcast ever. Believe me. But yeah, so today we're going to be talking about the match against Vancouver Whitecaps. We're going to be talking about attendance issues, attendance woes. We'll be talking about the Dash. We'll be talking about the Toros, even though it's something I don't really want to talk about because I'm going to be so mad right now. But we'll be talking about all of these things so far. So be sure right now, be sure to share it with your friends. Share it on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, whatever. Just share it and let all of your Dynamo buddies know that we're going to be talking about the Houston Dynamo. Oh, we're also going to be talking about the international break. So a lot of interesting topics to talk about today.
Absolutely, and I'll try not to die during the broadcast.
No, well, it's okay. Just drink your water, my friend.
That's why I had to go get it, and it's already halfway gone. So we'll see how long it lasts me.
Oh no! It looks like we'll be doing a lot of commercial breaks today with no commercials.
Yeah. Right on. Again, what's up, everybody in the YouTube chat? Appreciate you guys hopping on, joining us tonight. But definitely remember the phone lines are open tonight. We are absolutely hoping you guys will call in 956-622-5977. We're looking forward to your calls because we are going to talk about a couple of, really one topic in particular that you guys have wanted to talk about. And it is one of those things that now is really a good time to talk about it. So Cisco makes a good points. Other teams have actually lost games in their leagues. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but it's nice when the Dynamo go undefeated in the first 3 matches of the season. So we'll talk about that. We'll get into the Vancouver match a little bit and talk about what happened with that match, and the Elise and Memo coming out party for the season, for sure. That was a fantastic showing by them. We will also talk today about, as Edson said, the international break. I want to talk about the international break, and I want to talk about the timing of the international break, why it's really important for the Dynamo to maximize this time. And then I want to talk about the attendance challenge. Thank you, Panic. And I will throw it out there. I do have tea downstairs. I don't have any lemon. Actually, I do have a lemon downstairs as well. So, in no honey, but I have sugar, so I can, and it's raw cane sugar, so I can deal. I can make it work. But y'all should have heard me Friday, man. Friday and over the, well, actually, y'all should have heard me all of last week. Just Monday on, I was terrible. And it was so bad Tuesday that there was no chance I was doing the show Tuesday. And then bad enough Wednesday, I ended up having to go to the doctor. So it was pretty bad, y'all. It was pretty bad. I was not feeling well at all. But I definitely feel a lot better now. So yay for that. Where did you go, Edson? Why is your camera off? Because I'm doing a monologue. Is that what that is? Is that your Sean's doing monologue moment?
Yeah, pretty much. It's okay. Each one of us has their own camera.
Sure. I just broke my mom's rocking chair. Oh, Pat.
Oh,
Pat is a special kind of guy.
That's just bad luck.
So, before we dive into stuff tonight, Edson, how was your, excluding the match, how was your trip to RGV this weekend?
It was, Blues is like, oh, I thought Edson was going to put back his Tigres jersey again. Look, I'm not here to torture you all, okay? You guys, I'm hurting about the Dynamo the same way you guys are hurting, okay? So I'm not going to be doing that, Blues. It was fun being the villain in that episode, but frankly, like, I'm going to be honest, I was rooting for the Dynamo in the away match, because they needed the support. Tigres didn't really need the support. They already had like 42,000 people supporting them at the stadium. But that's none of my concern.
I'm watching our viewer numbers go down as you keep talking.
But yeah, no, I was going back to my trip down to RGV. It was really interesting. There was a lot of thunderstorms by Corpus Christi, Sinton, but it was like really bad. There were like lightning strikes like right next to 59. But I managed to get there on Saturday. You know, I had to do a lot of errands, filing my taxes, yada yada. But the stadium, you know, they had a lot of activities. They had the kids zone. They even had like lucha libre there at the stadium before the match began. And Jacob and I had our Down in the Valley pre-game show there live at HEB Park, and it was pretty fun. But then the match started, and it just started on its left foot like right away. But we'll be talking a lot more in detail about that later on in the show.
You know, you'd think a cough drop would prevent the cough, but apparently it does not. So let's talk the match on Saturday, not the RGV match. Let's talk the Dynamo match Saturday. The Dynamo had Vancouver Whitecaps come into town. This is a team that is now 0-3. They have not won or drawn a match yet on the season. They are currently tied for last place alongside Philadelphia. Philadelphia drew. I don't know. There's actually quite a few teams right now that are like 3 or 4 teams that are at 0-3, which again is pretty impressive to start your first 3 matches and not get a single point out of them.
It's just Vancouver and San Jose.
Oh, you're right. Okay, I was thinking of the 0-1-2 teams.
Yeah,
there are 4 of those, 4 0-1-2 teams. But there are very few teams that are either 3-0-0 or 2-1-0.
Mm-hmm.
So
because right now the only positive perfect record is Seattle Sounders.
Correct, and that's not going to last. We all know that. They've started most of their matches at home. They started with Cincy. Who did they play? They played Cincy. They played someone help me out here.
They played Cincy, they played Colorado, and then they played Chicago.
Yeah. And right now, Chicago's a bottom of the table team. Cincy is an expansion team. And Colorado is about as hit or miss of a team right now as I've seen. While they have plenty of talent, that talent has not been on display for them this season so far. It's also early in the season. But, Seattle is playing well. But like I said, they haven't really faced any tough competition. I think that they will probably be in contention for this season, pushing for Supporters Shield. I don't think they're going to get it, but I do think they'll be pushing for Supporters Shield. But it's just they're not as good a team as I think their fans believe they are. They're a very young team now. They've youthed up a little bit.
Yeah.
They still have some older players, some veteran players, but for as good as they've been, I don't think that form is going to hold for a whole lot longer, maybe one or two more matches. But I do think they're definitely going to struggle as we get deeper into the season. Like I said, Dynamo took on Vancouver here in Houston. I unfortunately was not able to attend, but I did watch on TV. I want to give a shout out for this match to El Batallon's band, La Banda. Being able to hear them on the broadcast used to irk me because it sounded very repetitive. But I did actually, you could hear very clearly it was not the same song, no matter what some people on Twitter or Facebook may think. They definitely have a good number of songs now. I think that number runs up to anywhere between 5 to 10 songs, depending on the match. But you could definitely hear the differences in the songs. They were loud enough you could pick it up very clearly on the broadcast, which was good. But that brings me to my point of frustration with the fan base in general. For the longest time, ever since about 2010, when the Dynamo first struggled on the pitch, after having such a great start to their tenure as an MLS club, fans began to show up less and less. We had less attendance, and it continued to decline. And it's interesting to me because a lot of fans said that if the team showed better on the pitch, that was their number one thing. If the Dynamo changed one thing, then that would be enough to bring fans back or bring them back to matches. So the Dynamo, they went out and they changed the way that they did business. They did a fantastic job bringing in younger players that are more talented than the players that they had. They have at least one of the stars of the league right now. But when he came to the team, he was not a known quantity in terms of a superstar name. Mm-hmm. However, with that being said, they've become absolutely without a doubt one of the best teams in the league. And they are currently undefeated, yet we look at Saturday's attendance, and maybe some of that has to do with the CCL matches, having so many matches in such a short period of time. That's exhausting as fans. Trust me, I know, to say the least. But I also think, as beautiful as that weather was, there really were very, very few reasons why that match shouldn't have been a sellout. You've got a team that was coming in on a 1-win, 1-draw to start the season. You got a team that just came off playing CCL and showed extremely admirably in Mexico. You had a team that played a strong lineup. It wasn't like Wilmer played just a bunch of subs. He played quite a few starters. You have a team that has shown to be a very good team this season and showed last season they were a pretty darn good team. And it was a home match. And yet we drew 10,000, 12,000, whatever it was, on a Saturday, on a very comfortable, very beautiful weather Saturday. It's an early kickoff. I mean, it's a 2 p.m. kickoff, so it's a mid-afternoon match, but it's a Saturday. Mm-hmm. And it frustrates me that fans wanted to say for the longest time that they would come back if the team was playing well. Well, the team's playing well. That excuse no longer holds validity with me. You said if the team played well, you'd start coming back and start showing up. So come on, what's really the issue here? And at the end of the day, I think part of it was, again, CCL. Part of it was the rodeo, having the rodeo in town and people going to the rodeo. I think part of it was just, and it's been said on Twitter, that the front office in general prior to this new regime had burned a lot of bridges with fans that had stuck around for a while. And so, I look at it and I go, we've had these talks. What is it that we as diehard fans, and let's be real, if you're watching a podcast or a video, Dynamo video show, whatever you want to call us, internet show, if you're watching that on a Tuesday night at 7 p.m., and you're watching live or you're watching after the fact or you're listening after the fact, you're a diehard. What can we as diehards do to help attendance? And it ties into things that the supporters groups can do better about, and I think they're trying to do those things better. One of the primary things is just welcome people, make them feel, if you see somebody new that you've never seen at a Dynamo match, take a couple of minutes and go say hi, get to know them. Again, coming back to the whole thing, we're a Dynamo family now, and family doesn't let family members hang off on the side by themselves. We try to be inclusive. We try to approach people and make them feel welcomed into the environment. If we want to get to the point of Tigres, then we have to be that family. We have to be that, and I know for some people that it's a difficult thing to do because you're an introvert, and introverts by nature are not outgoing people. They're not the type to just walk up to somebody and say, hi, how's it going? And then initiate small talk. But there are enough of us that are extroverts or outgoing individuals that are part of the Dynamo fan base that can take a few moments of our time. If there's somebody sitting on our row that we've never seen before, or somebody sitting in our section that we've never seen before, take a few moments to go up and just say hi, find out why they're there, find out if it's their first match. Then, hey, if it's their first match, find a way to help them enjoy that experience even more. Because at the end of the day, as much as we want to place the struggles in the Dynamo front office for the attendance, it falls on us as a fan base to improve ourselves as well. Like, I'm tired of, and I'm just as guilty of it, don't get me wrong, but I'm tired of the excuses that this is all the front office's fault. It's a cop-out at this point. There are plenty of teams across the world that it doesn't matter how bad their team does year over year, their fans still show up in the tens of thousands. There are teams that no matter how much their team struggles, whether it's in league or in domestic competition or internationally, whatever, they're still going to show up and they're going to be as strong as ever. Because they understand that supporting your team is not just supporting them when they're winning, it's supporting them when they're losing, it's supporting them when they're struggling. Mm-hmm. Because we're people and people struggle. And your team is going to struggle. No matter what, your team is going to struggle. There's not an MLS team that's ever gone undefeated. Look it up. So, you have to understand that because of those struggles, though, that even more importance has to be placed on that Dynamo family. Because those people who are on the fence, who maybe they come to their first match and it's a kind of a crappy match, you can be that difference for that one person that brings them back to another match. And maybe that match that they come to is Vancouver versus Houston, where it's a 3-2 thriller, and the Dynamo played really well throughout the majority of the match. It's what can we do to do our part, right? That's become the new thing. Do our part. It's now on us to do our part. I think there's been a huge thing that, we want to throw the front office under the bus, but I think at the end of the day, this front office has made a valiant effort to reach out to try to improve things. Maybe you don't agree with what they're doing, and that's your right, but they're trying. They are making a statement by attempting and trying. And it's on us as fans to return that back, tenfold in response and say, hey, we recognize that you're trying, instead of, crying and moaning every time you try to do something and saying, oh, well, of course, it's another Dynamo attempt to try to draw in fans that don't care about the game. Maybe instead of that, maybe be supportive and positive for a change. I know, mind-blowing thought here, but be supportive and positive. Just because you're supportive and positive, when it comes to the front office, doesn't mean you agree with everything they're doing. It means that you've got to take a few moments to realize that you are representing this fan base. You are representing this family. If you wear the Dynamo colors, you are being a supporter. Regardless of how you support, you are being a supporter, and you are representing this fan base. That means you represent me. That means you represent Edson. That means you represent Cisco and Darby and Callow and Blues and Pat and everybody else. It means you represent those fans like Bun B. It means you represent Paul Wall, guys that have donned that jersey that are celebrities. You represent them every time you wear that kit, every time you wear the Dynamo colors. You, as much as the players, have a commitment to this organization when you don those colors to live out the Dynamo family, to be part of that Dynamo family. And we have to do better as a fan base. We can't put it on the front office. We can't be wishy-washy. This is our chance to prove to the front office that, you know what, it's worth you investing more in this team. It's worth you investing in this fan base. It's worth you giving us cooler perks, because at the end of the day, you're going to get a return on your investment, because we're going to do more. We're going to do our part to make sure that that investment that you're putting in there is going to come back tenfold to you, whether it's monetarily or just butts and seats. And at the end of the day, that's what the front office wants to see. They want to see butts and seats. I don't care what anybody says. That's really what they want to see. And that's great. And that is a good goal for them. But they can't do it alone. We have to be as much of the solution as we've been part of the problem. And like I said, I'll be the first to raise my hand and say, I've been in the past. I've been a lackluster supporter. I've been a lackluster fan. That doesn't mean I wasn't involved and didn't want to get involved. It just means I wasn't comfortable at that point getting involved. And there are going to be people out there that aren't comfortable yet doing that. And that's fine. Again, support how you support, but just understand, when you wear the orange, when you wear the black, you are saying, I am a member of this Dynamo family. And that means that if you see me walking down the hallway, the concourse at BBVA, you have every right to pull me aside and say, hey, what's up? That means if you see me in the stands, you have every right to, excuse me, every right to pull me aside and say, what's up? It means if you see me not acting like a Dynamo fan, not acting like a Dynamo supporter, not upholding those values that I would expect of Dynamo family people, then you have a right to call me out on it. It's okay. We have to be okay with that. And I know I'm kind of all over the board, but that's because there's a lot to talk about related to that. But I just really feel like you guys, just in general, not pointing to anybody in chat, not pointing to anybody that's watching, just the fan base in general needs to understand that the time for us to cry and moan about how crappy the organization is over. I'm calling it right now. I'm putting my foot down. It's over. It's time for us to be positive. It's time for us to take it upon ourselves to go out there and be real supporters. And that doesn't mean you have to go and chant and jump up and down in the supporter section, but it does mean that if you're sitting in a section and you see somebody who's, maybe they're not enjoying the game and you see it, go try to find out how you can help them enjoy the game. As much as anything, that's important. And I won't even get into the volunteer opportunity things, though. You really should be doing that too. Represent the orange and black out in the community. It really is important. Speaking of which, Darby, when's the next volunteer opportunity? Because I know you know. And I'm not going to, obviously, we're not going to wait because that'll be 5 minutes before she replies, but, whatevs.
I think she said she was in the car. But yeah, you make great points in everything that you say.
And here's the thing, Edson. It rings true for RGV just as much as it rings true for the Dynamo, just as much as it rings true for the Dash. And so, it's just as much a call out to those that are women's soccer fans here in the Houston area. You have just as much a responsibility to not only the Dash, but the Dash community to represent that. If you want to be a WOSO fan and you want to say you're a WOSO supporter, then that means you got to get involved. That means you got to get engaged. And the same thing goes true with RGV. If you want to say that you're an RGV fan, then prove it by getting engaged. Prove it by getting involved. At the end of the day, I promise you, if even a third of this fan base, or even a third or a fourth of this fan base got involved and got engaged in some way, shape, or form, I guarantee you we'd see at least double the number of attendance that we saw this past Saturday. Just that. That's all it takes. That sounds crazy. That number seems kind of crazy when you think there were only about 10K that showed up, or 12K, I guess. But 12K, double that, that's 24K. We've sold out the stadium. And if that's all it's going to take is us being engaged and the front office not doing anything in addition, then, seriously, it's just one of those things. There's no reason for us not to do it. I don't care how much you feel like you've been burned by the Dynamo in the past. That guy is gone. That guy is absolutely gone. He's no longer part of the Dynamo organization. So, be willing to embrace it. Be willing to step out. Be willing to be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
I can definitely agree. So, on Saturday at RGV, we had 4,360 something fans out there at the stadium, but there was a lot of new people. the front office went out of their way to go and promote the team. They have a street team now. You know, they have a little van where they're out there at the little stores, you know, promoting the Toros. They were at the Mercedes Livestock Show, you know, with their booth and inviting people, giving away tickets, you know, for them to go see the Toros in their opening match. And the fans that were there during the match, you know, they were very vocal. They were chanting and cheering on the team. The difference is that the Toros did not reciprocate that passion on the pitch, which as we talk about with the Circle of Suck, that's one of the parts of the Circle of Suck. So I know a lot of people that went there for the first time, and I talked to them. There were a couple friends of mine, and they were extremely disappointed by the fact of how bad they played, and they were actually like really not thinking of going back.
You know, and that's something too. Like, how do you combat that as a fan? How do you combat that when these guys, you know, guys and girls have spent their money, their hard-earned money on a match that they're going to, and the team just doesn't show up. They don't play to what you know is their potential. They don't play to what you know is their talent level. And I think at the end of the day, like I said, you're going to have matches where your team just doesn't play up to their potential or doesn't play up to their talent. And it's on you as fans, whether it's RGV, Dynamo, or Dash, to be engaged with those fans, to make it more than just about the team. Yes, that's your whole reason for being there, but it doesn't have to be your sole reason for getting together. Trust me, that people in this world, in this day and age, they're looking for community. They're looking for friends. They're looking for people to hang out with. They're looking for people that have a common factor that ties them together.
And I just feel like that's one of the things that us, the guys down in the valley, have lacked, and it all goes back to being a part of Do Our Part.
Yeah.
I mean, we've focused so much on trying to get information out there about this team, which isn't easy, but we never really focused on making sure that we're out there, you know, on the stands, or trying to inviting to the people that are there at the stadium, or at least trying to make it, you know, welcoming, you know. And it's all part of do our part. And I'm thinking of, whenever I'm out there, I'm gonna not focus too much on, you know, getting information, because I mean, I got other people. I got either Jacob or Cesar that can help me out than that. Like, I really would want to help in making sure it's more welcoming and forming a family, because I feel like you say, you know, people go out there and like to whether they think or it's subconscious, they go out there, you know, they meet friends, and it makes it a lot more appealing for them to come back, to, you know, to see that person that they met sitting next to them, that they clapped and at a goal or something. So I think that's one of the things that I personally think that I would like to help improve, and kind of show that, you know, like in soccer, you know, like you said, no team wins all the time, and it's early in the season for RGV to get their act together and start playing better. But it's still kind of sad that we still only got like 4,000, which is half a stadium, when we used to get 7,000. So it's a long road ahead for that, and we want to help out the FO, because, you know, like you say many times, it's not all about the FO. You know, the FO can only do so much. Fans have to put in their effort to make it appealing for other fans to come back to the stadium.
And, you know, I've seen on Twitter repeatedly this past week and the last couple of weeks, and this question was sent out among people that I know that are part of the supporters groups. And the question was asked, like, you know, how do we recreate what we're seeing in Cincy and what we saw in Atlanta? And I think at the end of the day, we have to realize as a fan base that it's not just how well the team is performing, but it's how engaging the supporters groups are, how much they embrace that the new fans that are coming into the stadium, the new fans that are meeting up for various events, whether it's a volunteer opportunity or an away watch party or a launch party for the jersey, whatever it is. Their fans are engaged with one another. They're creating that community. They're creating what Seattle and what Portland did early on, which is they're creating that bond that links them all together as family. And so, it's to answer that question, because that's the question that's been asked repeatedly. How do we do that? Well, that's the answer, I think, at the end of the day, is we as a fan base have to be more welcoming, more inviting, more approachable, more engaged with not just new people, but people that we know haven't been to a match in 3 years. Maybe it's just that they didn't have the finances at the time to be able to go, but now they do. Or maybe it's that they had kids that, young kids, and they weren't able to do it. Whatever it is, it's just as much on us to be part of the, like I said, part of the solution, not part of the problem, but also part of that family and reaching out and trying to make the change. One thing Jake brought up in chat is that the Houston Dash have a scrimmage against Texas A&M up in College Station on Saturday. Kickoff's at 5. Bayou City Republic will be there. Make sure if you guys do happen to go to that, make sure you hit them up and say hi. I'm sure Sarah and Jake would absolutely love to have you guys hang out and say hi and that sort of thing. But
oh, wow.
It's don't look at it because it'll derail us. But it's that kind of stuff that really does make a difference, is finding ways to bond together as a family, finding ways to bond together as friends. I mean, look, I'm going to tell y'all a story, right? So y'all know that Cisco and I are close. Well, that all started randomly because he and I started talking on Twitter, and he was up in section 2 something with a couple of his friends that he met up in 2 something. And one week I was like, hey, come on and sit down here with me and hang out. And so he did. And, and we bonded over the Dynamo, and, it's literally become, he's easily one of my best friends at this point. And how does that happen? It happens by being engaging. It happens by being engaged. It happens by, taking the time to get to know one another. It happens by not just being part of the atmosphere, but being part of the family. And I can tell you, it's not just Cisco. I've got 4 or 5 friends, actually more than that I've made in that section in 102 because I got to know Cisco. And by getting to know Cisco, it expanded out into this like concentric circle thing. We got to know Jason and Angie and Dan and April and Nick and Tony and his fiance, and the list goes on and on and on. And we got to know the people in front of us. There was a guy with his wife that came to every match last season, or not every match, but came to quite a few of the matches last season. Got to know him and his wife. And I mean, it's just like, I sit there and I think about all these experiences, and I'm like, how hard is that to do for most people to just really just reach out and say hi? Like, if it's halftime, if it's before the match, if it's after the match, whatever it is, just make people feel like, like they're not just there to be there for the match, but that, you're there as much as they are to create something real and lasting. And those types of relationships, those types of friendships that form, they are the type that when Jason and Angie have their kid, that kid's going to grow up and become a Dynamo diehard fan because they've got, role models essentially, that do that. And, so it's kind of crazy to think about because I've not thought about it in that way, but, seriously, it's like leaving a legacy on the Dynamo organization as a whole. And all it took was just Cisco and I talking, and that's it. Literally, that was how everything started. So, yeah, you may be an introvert, but you can still get out there and talk to people. And I mean, I'm not saying go out there and totally engage in the small talk, and that's it. But, just try to listen to what's going on with people and understand that sometimes people need that break and you need it too. But at the same time, most people are going to be amenable to you talking to them. I can tell you for a fact that I've never had somebody tell me don't talk to me at a Dynamo match. And if you're if you going up and talking to somebody in your section or in your row is what brings them back to another match and to another match and turns them into a diehard, then is it not worth that few minutes of uncomfortableness, get past it, and then you're friends for life type thing? I mean, and there are going to be people that aren't going to be that way necessarily. But it's if you make the effort, that's all I'm asking for, is for people to make the effort, do your part, whatever that is, do your part. If everybody did their part, we would easily sell out every match. And doing your part doesn't have to just be at the stadium. It can be outside the stadium at away watch parties. It can be inviting coworkers like Callow does to matches left and right. It could be inviting your friends that aren't Dynamo fans. It can be inviting your D&D group if you have a D&D group, and being like, hey, let's go to a Dynamo match together. Create opportunities, and I promise you that in the long run, creating those opportunities are going to pay back tenfold in terms of both your life and in terms of the growth of your family and the growth of your inner circle. Jake says going to the first Dynamo CCL match was amazing. The RSL game was equally awesome. Yeah, I mean, I've been to all but one of the home matches this season, and that was, of course, Vancouver, because I was sick. And I can tell you that the experience I've had at every match has been incredible. It has changed my perspective on a lot of things, but it's been really good. And I've gotten to know a lot of people that I wouldn't have gotten to know otherwise. And there's plenty of opportunities to I mean, I've sat in 226 with Jeff and Sergio. I've sat in 102 with the crew down there that I know. I've sat in 106-ish, 107 with Travis and his people. And I've sat in the supporters group. Not sat because you don't sit in the supporters group, but I hung out in the supporters group section, and so I can tell you I've been all over the stadium, and it is really impactful when you see people who don't know each other taking time to get to know each other. That's all I got for right now. Edson.
David, just keep trying, man. And thank you for your efforts in trying to get more people to go to games. I think. Well,
and he notes that he's invited many people, and I'm guessing he's had quite a few that have come, but he hasn't been able to actually get any of them to come regularly. Mm-hmm. But if you keep trying, it's that one person you do get to come regularly, that if they know those people that already aren't, that you've already invited to other ones, they start talking it up too. And now instead of it just being you and in the desert by yourself screaming out saying, come to a Dynamo match, now it's two of you, and it holds more impact. So just understand that your work is laying the foundation that allows them to ultimately become long-term fans. And for some people, soccer's not going to be their chill, right? It's just not going to be what they enjoy. Whatever. They're weird, obviously wired totally different. Hey, totally more power to them. But at the same time, I mean, it's just if you make the effort, I promise you that at the end of the day is what's really important. And I need a break, Edson. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah. So we're gonna go on a quick little break. When we come back, there we go. When we come back, we will continue to talk about the match against Vancouver Whitecaps, and so don't go away just yet. We'll be back.
Feel
To the Generation Orange. For some reason, can't even talk today, like really, really bad. I'm feeling a little lethargic, but let's keep the show going, guys. So before we went on break, we were talking about, oh, that's the wrong screen. There we go. Before we went on break, we were talking about, attendance issues and what we as fans can do to help alleviate the situation, whether it's Dynamo, whether it's the Dash, whether it's RGV or any other team, you know, that you follow, you know, whatever. We don't judge. Like a couple of you did not judge me for Tigris, but okay.
Unless you follow Frisco and then get the hell out.
Yeah, exactly. Get the hell out. This is a Frisco free zone. But yeah. So now we want to talk a little bit about the actual match that happened on Saturday between the Houston Dynamo and Vancouver Whitecaps. So I watched a bit of the game, about, I guess you could say, like the whole first half and a little bit of the second half. And so the Dynamo, in my eyes, they played well. They were able to get the go ahead goal with Memo Rodriguez assisted by Albert Elise. What I liked about that play, and I saw some comments about it on Twitter, which I had agreed upon, is that some fans feel that goal would not have happened had a Romel Kyoto had been on the pitch. And I definitely agree. Right now, I feel like Memo has a lot of sacrifice and a lot of, you know, positioning himself for the team. I feel like Kyoto would have just stayed out wide and would have not. He would have expected for Manotas to have been there, and I feel that sometimes that's the issue, where you just leave Manotas to kind of take advantage of being in the box. Whereas there's a lot more space that could be covered if somebody else comes in, and that also frees up some mark or some coverage from Manotas. If, for example, in this case, having Memo inside waiting for Albert Elise, because we know that Albert Elise is going to go for that play. He's going to go try to get as close to the end line as possible and try to cross it in through the edge of the 6-yard box. And then, well, sadly, wait, did I get this wrong? No, Dynamo scored first, and then Vancouver tied it up with a penalty, which I still feel that while there was contact by Adam Lundqvist, I feel that Montero kind of exaggerated the fall, and that caught the referee's attention for him to call the penalty right away. Sadly, Montero was able to score that penalty, but it didn't last long, because the Houston Dynamo was able to get back on goal with another penalty, which a lot of people said it wasn't. I still think it is, because he managed to make contact with Albert Elise's foot enough for him to, instead of for him landing on the ground, landing on the defender's other leg. So that's a penalty in my book. I don't understand why a lot of people were crying, but then again, it was mostly fans from other clubs. That's pretty much what I saw, as well as, you know, the tying goal. I had to get ready for the Toros match, so I didn't get to see the rest. But what did you think? And then
Edson turned it off and we won. I'm just throwing it out there, guys.
Oh,
I'm not saying Edson's a jinx, but Edson's a jinx. I mean, you watch every RGV match and look how they're playing. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, Edson. I'm just saying. No, I thought the Dynamo attack played really well. Damn, Edson. Damn, dude. Did I burn you that bad? Need to take a minute in the corner by yourself? No, I mean, look, at least needed a match like this to break out. I think he's been struggling to start this season. I think part of that was having so many matches in such a short period of time that I think he was trying to balance going full out and going only partially. You know what I'm saying? Like not playing his hardest to make sure that he had something left to give on, Saturdays versus Tuesdays, etc. And I think now that monkey is off the back in terms of CCL, that Elise has been able to find his stride. And look, I'm going to bring it up now because I think it needs to be brought up. I've seen on Twitter where there are those who called me out and apparently called Edson out, but specifically called me out on Twitter for saying that I didn't want to see Memo start. And I don't think that individual understood what I was saying in our shows. It's not that I don't want to see Memo starting. It is that Memo up until that match, and really the last couple of matches, has not shown enough to be a consistent starter. When he was given starting opportunities, he struggled. He showed that he was nothing more than a bench player. Now, with the last couple matches under his belt and showing that he can be that starter, the question is, can he be a consistent season-long starter? And I still think that's a valid question. I need to see him do it more than just one match, more than just two matches. I really need to see it like 5 to 10 matches to say, yeah, that guy should be starter the rest of the season and should be starter going forward. But I like the fact that he's showing that he has that offensive presence of mind to get in the box on the wing, to be part of the attack. But I'm going to flip it around. If Kyoto's on the pitch, do we surrender both of those goals? I think it's likely we still surrender the one goal in the box because it was a penalty. But I think that second goal, if Kyoto's on the pitch, I don't think we surrender that goal. So, I struggle with this mentality or this thought that, with Memo being on the pitch, we won because Memo was on the pitch. I think at the end of the day, Memo had a great game. Players have great games all the time. Players have great games, but that doesn't mean that they're going to continue to have great games in the long run. Oh, okay. Well, that's different, Bob. No, I seriously was pissed off because I thought somebody was legit trying to call me out, and I was not happy about it.
Well,
but
here's one thing though, is I understand what you're saying, but then again, there was already a lot of people, because I know there was a question that was asked to him at the post-game press conference. They're like, oh, so who would you want to play with, Mexican national team or U.S. national team? I'm like, hold on. Let's take this step by step. Like, you're already, like, he's proven himself just two games as a starter, and you're already kind of insinuating that, like, oh, he's national team material. Like, come on. First, they're trying
to give him the Lucatero treatment. Look how that turned out.
Trust me. Yeah, no. Like, so, like, now all of a sudden, the media is like, oh, yeah, Memo. When, how long has he been here and nobody really paid attention to him?
Yeah, so Cisco brought up to me via text message on Saturday that Cisco, you're going to need to – do I need to pull up the text message so that I can cite this? Because it was really good. It was really good info. And he has allowed me to do this, by the way. I don't want y'all to be so fun fact, guys, this is important. Dynamo have conceded a goal in 6 out of 7 games this season. Cabezas has only played in 1 game this season. Do you want to take a guess at which game he played in? So all I'm saying, guys, is that we still miss Cabezas. I hope he comes back fully healthy soon, and actually is really good, really strong. No, it's okay. It's okay, Booster. I will accept that you didn't intend it to be that way. Next time, just make sure you holler at me and let me know it's sarcastic, and I won't blow up at it. And I didn't blow up at you, but you can ask the Discord guys. I blew up on Discord, but I was not happy because I thought it was somebody legit coming at me, and I was about to. We were about to have some fun. And look,
because it has
call me
happened
out
before.
People can call me out on crap. I don't have a problem with people calling me out on crap, but there's a way to do it that's appropriate, and then there's a way to do it that's being a troll and an asshole. And if you're an asshole, I'm going to end up probably blocking you and or making you feel really dumb on Twitter publicly, which I've done to people before. And then I end up blocked, and it's really funny. But at the end of the day, my point about Memo, and I think Edson echoed it perfectly, is that, look, the guy's had 2 really good matches in a row, and even then really one really good match and then one decent performance in a row. And so I'm not ready to give this guy the keys to the kingdom yet. I'm not ready to give Memo that, the starter role, because I don't know if he's deserving of it truly yet. And so, I need to see Memo do it a little bit more consistently. I need to see him do it off the bench in that super sub role. And he's taking advantage of the fact that Kyoto is struggling right now. And I think that's good for Memo. But at the same time, what happens when Kyoto hits his form again? And he's going to hit his form again. This is a player that's shown he has form. He has capability. And when Kyoto hits that form, is Memo going to be able to go back to being a bench player? And I think at the end of the day, I think Memo is going to have to be willing to do that if Kyoto can find his form. And I think he will. Yeah. So it's those types of things too, is like, and I'm really impressed with Memo. I think he's shown that he is a capable player, that's more capable than I thought. I was concerned, Bob Boozer, that I would have ripped you a new one on Twitter, and I didn't want to go. I was trying to be above the hate. And so that's on me for not really calling you back out on it. But no, I mean, yeah, there are some people that have been on Team Memo since the beginning. And look, I've been on Team Memo. I want to see the kid succeed. I want to see the guy become a permanent starter, because that's good for the Dynamo. But at the same time, does he truly have that talent level to be an every match starter? From what I've seen, he's starting to get there. But this is a kid that's taken now 5 years to get there. And that should be what our expectation gets set at. That's the precedence for how long it's going to take a player coming out of the Dynamo Academy to find his mark and make his mark on the Dynamo in MLS.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the fact that this is pretty much like a story of a dream come true, based on how Memo struggled to get to where he's at right now, and he knows that there's a lot more ground to cover. He knows that nothing is certain right now in regards to him being a starter. I mean, he was pretty much let go after, was it before RGV came into the scene? He was released, if I'm not mistaken, correct? From an MLS contract.
No, he didn't have an MLS contract before RGV came around. He wasn't signed to an MLS contract. He wasn't released, but he had made it from the academy and graduated out of the academy and just didn't have any opportunities to follow through on. And then RGV came around and provided him that opportunity to sign with the Dynamo and be part of RGV.
Pretty much a closer eye, because he had been playing with the Pittsburgh River. No, Charleston. Was it? I think it was Charleston Battery.
Yeah,
Charleston Battery, and RGV allowed him for the Dynamo to get a closer look on him. And so they saw that he had the potential to be a sub for the Dynamo, and they gave him an MLS contract. It took him a while, obviously, to kind of get these opportunities to start matches, not just being a sub. And now that he's shown that he can do it, he can provide a decent showing. Like Sergio says, if at least didn't give Memo those 2 tap-ins, we wouldn't be talking about how great Memo is. He deserves to be starting the next couple of matches, though. Definitely. I mean, sadly, soccer, if you score the goals, that you're gonna get the attention. That doesn't necessarily mean that those who don't score goals have no role in a soccer team. Sometimes the best players aren't the ones that necessarily score goals. We talked about it. Juan David Cabezas. Juan David Cabezas rarely scores goals, but his presence on the field is so important that it's a huge difference when he's on the pitch and when he's not on the pitch.
Yep, agreed.
So with Memo, yes, maybe he scored goals, but maybe he might be lacking in some other things that are more of his position as a left mid or a left winger that maybe he still needs to improve on before we can really consider him a consistent starter.
I also want to bring up this thought as well for people to consider. Is Memo a product of the system more so than he is a product of his talent? And I ask that question because I think it's an important question. Is he a product of playing in Wilmer's system at RGV, getting to understand what his responsibility is as that winger on the left side? And he mentioned it in his post-match interview that it's something that Wilmer has instilled in him, that as a winger, that's his responsibility, is to push into the box and be that guy.
Correct.
But you know, at the end of the day, is if he goes to another team, is he going to have the same level of success? And I think at the end of the day, the answer is no. And it has nothing to do with Memo specifically, but I again, coming back to the ultimate point there, is that Memo, from a talent perspective, he's not the most talented player on the pitch. The one thing Memo's going to give you match in and match out is he's going to give you effort. The guy is effort personified. He's going to give you heart, and he's going to give you effort. And he's going to give you the effort on the practice pitch as much as he is on the game day pitch. And, you know, that's a sign of a true professional. But again, is he more of a product of the system? And if he's a product of the system, if other players start to understand that all they have to do is adapt to the system, then, you know, how much more success could we have? You know, a player like Kyoto that is undoubtedly, I don't think anyone can argue, is more talented than Memo at the end of the day. You know, if he can find his comfort level in the system, you know, he can be an elite top level talent in the league, because if Memo can score 2 goals in a match, Kyoto could easily do it. He just has to be the guy willing to make those runs, willing to make those moves into the box, willing to take defenders on, you know, willing to do certain things. And so, you know, so it's just, I think it's important to remember when it comes to Memo that, you know, he's finding his mark, he's finding his place, and, you know, he's still learning a lot. And, you know, Cisco makes a good point too. Lots of people still see Memo as a kid, but he's actually older than Elise and really the same age as Morrow.
And I think that's something that Glenn Davis told Jacob on Twitter, because a lot of people still view Memo as an academy product or the academy kid, when he's way past that already. Like he is a first team member, and he's going to have the expectations and the responsibilities of everybody else who's also a member of the first team, whether it's Elise, whether it's Kyoto, whatever. You know, he's got to fulfill those. I guess you can see that the Dynamo fan base or the Dynamo system is yearning for that success story of the academy, but we can't hold on to that persona forever. And that's what needs, and that I think that's what people need to view it as, instead of saying, oh, he had a good game, oh yeah, he's already a success. No, yes, he had these 2 goals, but maybe Wilmer Cabrera, like I said before, sees that, you know, there's a lot more to improve in order to fit into the system in the actual position, and that is assisting and the distribution of the ball out there on the wing, that he might need to improve on. And maybe he sees something that once Kyoto, like you said, once Kyoto is back on his groove, is better at, and will be more beneficial for the Dynamo.
So Edson, let me ask you: are the phone lines up?
Yes,
and
they
are
are.
You sure? And are you sure?
Yes, they are. The ring. Why?
Because Blue says he tried to call in and it didn't. He wasn't able to get called in. Hold on. 956-622-5977.
Yeah, don't try again.
Pardon with us while our.
There it is. I did not hear the ring.
It's working, Blues. Call back in. That was me testing it, Edson.
Okay. Yeah, because I didn't even hear the ringtone at all.
I didn't either, and I would have heard it because it came through your headset. Anyways, Darby says her photographer got a couple of shots of that Lundy foul, and it looked so stupid. What the hell was he thinking? No, on the replay, the multiple angles they showed, I mean, there's no doubt he definitely hit him, I mean, of course, Montero is going to exaggerate the contact. All the good strikers really do. Let's be honest.
Yes.
But he definitely shouldn't have put his leg out there the way that he did, and run into him the way that he did. And then Cisco says something else that's important too, and knowing what we've been talking about when it comes to Memo in terms of his age, he's the same age as Morrow and Elise essentially. Knowing that that's the case, would people say his development is on par with Morrow and Elise? And I think at the end of the day, I feel like Morrow and Elise have made more strides, have made bigger strides to become permanent starters as compared to Memo, who is still trying to figure it out. And some of that is, where they're, the places they're coming from are different and things like that. But and Callow, and that's what I was actually meant to say, or was trying to say. Memo's not been in the same quality of academy as Morrow and Elise. They were brought up in different academies that obviously are world-class academies as opposed to our Houston Dynamo Academy, which is improving
For a lot
tremendously.
more experience.
Yeah. Experience. Oh, there we go. We got a call.
Welcome to Generation Orange. Who are we speaking with? And I dropped my phone.
This is Blues.
Hey, what's up, Blues?
Yo, Blues.
Going on, nothing much, and y'all?
Doing pretty good. Can you hear him? Okay. Yeah, no, man, we're doing pretty good. Just like you can see, we're just talking about Memo. What are your thoughts on this whole Memo Rodriguez?
Well, about that, pretty much from what I was reading over Twitter, it's a good story to pick up for the media. Everybody loves a homegrown player to succeed. It's an ability. It's a good way to get story, to get the fans hyped and everything. The only thing that I found that was a bit more contradictory on it, there was a report on someone actually put in that he was more or less shafted by management. And yes, he might have been with the other managers themselves. And I had put this discourse on Discord before, but for me, he wasn't shafted by Wilmer. He was more of encouraged by Wilmer to continue to grow as much as he can. Mm-hmm. He was given his chances. It wasn't like, no, he didn't get a chance to play. Wilmer thought that other players deserved better. The first year he was there was Vicente Sanchez, of course. And then the year after that, he tried to make the best out of the remains of Arturo Alvarez. And that might have been a little bit more frustrating for in the end, everyone there.
And let's not forget, sorry, Blues, but let's not forget as well that Memo played with RGV one game against San Antonio. He got injured, and he was out for a while.
Yeah.
Yep. It's more of like a combination of injuries kind of holding him back. I am 100% glad to see that he's performing well now. And again, as Sean said, players have good games. But we have to realize that he's contending against the likes of a player that's played in crucial World Cup qualifiers. He's almost led his team alongside at least to the World Cup in Honduras and Kyoto. As Kyoto does what he wants at this point. I'm not even sure if it's more of a slow starter. Is it just a mental block for him? Is he not focused enough with the team, or is there something stopping him there? Once he either finds his groove, because again, the Gold Cup starts in a few months, and as much as he assumes that he's assured a spot, with new management, you can never tell if you're guaranteed a spot in the national team. So he's going to have to bust himself to at least assure him of a starting spot. And from there, that would be the big question. Will Memo be able to beat him out? Someone that's already been proven for both club and country to play alongside. It's one of those things for me that I don't get why fans are willing to give him pretty much the starter position for the year. If out of the many games that he's been given a trial for, it's seen that he hasn't really been a big of an impact. And well, thankfully this year he started off well considering the amount of games we were playing, but that's kind of where I don't get media trying to overhype him. And as you mentioned, Edson, where he's already been talking about like the Joe questions, that kind of makes no sense about choosing national teams. This is a whole other spectrum of why are we doing this?
Yeah.
And it's
for me, I love the guy. But we'll see how long he lasts before Kyoto decides to wake up. And
Well,
from there, it's not going to be a choice of, well, who do we start? It's going to be of, can he keep his spot, or will he be sent back as a super sub looking for his spot again?
You know, I think it's important to remember, too, that it's not the worst thing in the world to have two guys that are capable of starting. So if Memo does come true and does turn out to be a really good, player that's able to slot in and be that long-term starter, then, that's not a bad thing. I mean, I don't want it to come across as I don't want to see him succeed. Like I said earlier, I want to see the kid succeed. And yes, I'm going to call him a kid because he's like 15 years my junior at this point. But at the same time, I want to see him succeed, and I want it to happen in the right time. I don't want him to succeed and get a big head about it and, not have to work and be able to kind of slack off. We've seen that with other players where they kind of reach that point where, hey, I've done everything that I feel I'm capable of doing. So now I've got the starter role. I'm promised the starter role. Now I'm going to take it easy. I'm not going to put in that full effort. So I want to see that.
We could kind of say the same thing with Mauro. Mauro had that block of the beginning of 2018 where he was just not, something was stopping him from continuing to saying, hey, I got the position locked up. There's Tommy Mack, he's not going to take my spot. I can just play easy. And as much as he would tell the fans, like, I'm doing my best, we didn't get the best out of him until Pena decided to come in and push him to where he's blossomed and already reaching the likes of a Portuguese team to play for it, to take his services from us. So it does take competition. It takes healthy competition, and Wilmer knows how to cultivate that. He knows how to thrive it. Some players don't like it, but hey, for the team that we're having to build, that's the only way you're going to get the best out of the best.
We talked about 2 weeks ago, and I want to get your thought on this, Blues. We talked a couple weeks ago about whether Wilmer should remain the head coach. And I know that may seem a bit premature, but it was in response to the Dynamo showing against Tigres here in Houston. And I do feel that there were opportunities for Wilmer in that match to make a statement tactically in response to how Tigres was starting to play. One of them, of course, being pulling bees earlier so that bees wouldn't affect bees wouldn't negatively impact the match. And it's funny because I look at the Tigres match in Mexico and I see him make that sub a lot sooner, make that call a lot quicker. And it just makes me wonder if he pulls Beasley earlier in that home match, are we talking about a different scenario where, maybe going into El Vacon, we only needed one goal instead of three, and changing how we approach that match tactically as well. But I'm just curious how you feel about Wilmer. I mean, you mentioned he's a coach that's able to get that kind of competition going. I'm curious how you feel about Wilmer in terms of tactically. Do you feel he's good enough as a coach to be a long-term MLS coach, or do you feel that he needs to work on that area?
For me, Wilmer, first off, you guys hit it on the head in the coffin about 2 weeks ago of him being a player's coach. He'll keep everything in-house. He's willing to take the burden for the players that he's done. I remember you guys going back to the Peel talking about Google and what he would do and how he would cover that up. And even beyond that, for me, Wilmer still needs to figure out an identity for himself as a tactician. There's so much that he could have done. For me, in terms of for Beasley, for that substitution that he should have made, I think for him, he didn't want to, how was the word to put it? He didn't want to kill morale. He didn't want to kill what was going on. He saw Bees hurt, but he saw that Bees wanted to fight. So he said, hey, he's the veteran. He's the leader. We have to keep him on. Unfortunately, that did not work to plan. It was what Tigres focused on. And, of course, them and their players, amazing players that they have, are going to capitalize 100% on any weakness. And it wasn't like we played bad. It was just decisions that he decided to take in the moment. Was it going to work for him? it failed him, and he still needs to work on that. Because honestly, when people think Wilmer Cabrera, they still think 2017, the whole counter-attacking, quick offense. That's what he tried to do first year. Second year, he tried to play a possession game. Injuries killed that. So there's not really an identity in terms of what it is. He's starting to form it this year where the team is pressing better, trying to maintain the ball and trying to move it fast. But there's still that identity, that philosophy that he wants to instill. And for me, if he's a long-term coach or if he's just a stopgap, for me, he can be a long-term coach if he's capable of bringing in the youth that we have here in Houston with RGV, bringing them in with help of his head coach that he helped pick out for RGV and make that seamless transition so where the philosophy stays. If it crumbles and if RGV does okay, but the players don't stay because they don't want to come to Houston, then it's a whole different problem.
I think one of the things that you mentioned about Coach Cabrera is that he wanted to instill a possession base in 2017 or in 20. Yeah, I think he said 2018.
2018, yeah.
Yeah. Well, originally, Coach Cabrera in RGV, it was all possession based, but he had players like Charlie Ward. He had players like Memo. He had players like Zen and Kadich, and other good players. Malky, Bird, as well, that played really well with possession based. Oh, we have a donation of $5. Tigers are the second best large cat team in the league right now.
That's great.
Yeah, because they're behind Leon right now by goal difference. But anyways,
Continue.
but what I was getting at is that Wilmer has always wanted to be a possession team. That's what he had at RGV. That's what he was used to. When he built RGV, it was with that in mind. Now with the Dynamo, because they were rebuilding and because he had players with the capability of Kyoto and especially Elise, he wanted to take advantage of that. He felt that maybe the counterattack was going to be a better suit these players. And like you mentioned, 2018, he wanted to go back to his roots and to go possession based. But it seems like Elise can get a bit lost when they're playing kind of like short passing possession based, and all the injuries from the players that he felt would have helped his style. That's why he had to revert back to counterattacking. And I feel like this year we're starting to see some of that little touch of possession-based style, especially when it's Marlon Hairston and Memo Rodriguez out there on the pitch.
Yeah, agreed.
You see it there. I saw the first game. It was a very interesting way that he was pressing it. It was more of a 4-2-4 where he'd just have them all go gung-ho, but it didn't work out. The players' press was there wasn't enough cohesion, and again, everything is still in the works. It's working out. And so it was kind of rough for me to see players having to push up just because they wanted to, and it opened up holes. For me, players like Elise is a tough thing for me to sell if he doesn't work on his ability to read the game while having the ball on his feet. It's not something that takes experience, but it also takes a willingness to understand that you just can't outburst someone. You just can't speed him out all the time, because in Tigres it was a nightmare watching him try to pass Dueñas and Dolores Nilo. It was just watching him get stopped every single time.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't like where they were just bringing two guys in and just halting him like Guastatoya did in the away leg. It was just him being outpositioned, outbodied, and being outplayed.
I think for Wilmer now, I think we're at that point because we've got our first away match coming up in the next couple of weeks. Oh, snap. We painted it black for a minute. The background went all black. That's kind of cool. But Oh, you totally derailed my train of thought. We've got our first away match coming up after the international break against Colorado on the 30th. And it will be interesting to see how Wilmer approaches that match tactically, because in the past, last year especially, he held the attack back. Tactically, the attack tended to stay deeper. The wingers tended to remain deeper to provide additional cover for the defense. And it led to very few opportunities on goal when away from home. And so I'd like to see how Wilmer approaches the match, not this Saturday and not next Saturday, but the Saturday after that on the 30th. I want to see how he approaches that match tactically, because, you know, if there's one thing that's been a struggle with Wilmer beyond just the tactics in general, is his away tactics have not mirrored his home tactics. And the team has shown that they are good enough on the road when you let them play their high press, high counterattack, that they can destroy teams. And I feel like he almost goes into those matches, away matches, or at least he did last year, with kind of a fear about him, that he was concerned that our team would surrender a lot of goals. And, you know, you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with surrendering the goals, knowing that your guys are good enough to get those goals back or even score more goals than the opposition. So I'm in. And
that kind of, for me, I'm hoping, again, we had 2 away games that we got to see visibly. First one, Guastatoya, was a bit of a cagey one, more or less, because it's the first game we played. Wasn't so much of a game that I would put on tape and say, hey, this is how we have to play. But the second one with Tigres showed a different side that you haven't seen the Dynamo play in since. They don't play like that away. And it was really good to watch. I mean, we did give up the goal, but that was after a player went down and down to 10. It was a whole different situation. But if we could replicate something like that, again, more inferior competition, we should be able to pick up points on the road. It should be now not, a win is a saving grace, because I could go back to how many times I posted our first away win, and it'd be like halfway through the season. And then I don't want that, man. I don't want that. I don't want that. I want wins on the way, or draws, and I need something, because, I mean, with the way that the playoffs are set off and how much more important the league is, positioning means a lot more for us in terms of at least getting at least one home game.
There's something I do want to add when you talked about the Tigres match away, and that is that, and I posted it on Twitter, there are so many Liga MX teams right now at this moment that would wish to have only gotten away with a 1-0 loss at Estadio Universitario. Just recently, you had Querétaro getting scored 4 goals at Estadio Universitario with a 4-1 loss there. And the Dynamo, coming out of preseason, only getting a 1-0 loss, and circumstantial one at best. It just shows to show the maturity of these players to not back down from such a hostile environment and go out there and play how they know they can play. And yes, I know that there's a lot of Mexican media and Tigres fans that are gonna say, "Oh well, Tigres has only played with like 25% of the accelerator down." I mean, come on, you know, this is.
And I mean, the people will make the excuses. I mean, they basically were able to go in and say, "Hey, we just have to play our game and we'll be fine. We're already up 2-0. We don't have to press for a win." But not all the time do you want to hear team pressing for a win at home. It should be something that comes natural, especially with the way that the manager there, Luka, plays more of a possession. That was pretty much, he was set for that win. All we could do is hope for a mistake and then push for the second. But even then, those guys are still looking to score to bring the home crowd into life, because if the Dynamo would have scored first, a whole different situation. A whole different crowd base. It'd be more of, hey, you guys have to score. These guys score again, it's tied. But that maturity in how they played that game has to be what emphasizes them that if we could play like this, ignore the goal, we could play like this away at home, there's no ground that we just can't say that, oh, we'll be lucky with a draw. No, their expectation should be, let's go out there and get 3 points, and if a draw happens, then we'll review everything else.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree. This team has the talent. They've proven it, and they're good enough to push on the road. So it's one of those things that, Wilmer just has to be okay with them pushing on the road. And sometimes that means, like I said, you may give up a goal or two, and that has to be okay in the long run. And, so it's just going to be interesting to watch how Wilmer approaches this first away match in the season. At this point, knowing how he approached last season, and knowing how he kind of tends to approach things in general when it comes to away matches, seeing what changes he makes and what tactical changes he makes, if any. If he comes out the same way that he comes out at home, then look, at that point, then I'm going to rubber stamp it and say Wilmer can stick around as long as he wants at that point, because that's all I'm asking for is come out with the same tactics, because you've proven it. You're good enough to do it at home. Why does away have to be any different? And the answer is it doesn't have to be. It's up to your players to play up to that expectation. And the players have proven they can. So now you just need to take the leash off them, and you take the reins off and let them have at it, because they'll prove it again in MLS. With that said, Blues, hey man, thanks for joining. We definitely appreciate getting a chance to talk to you and having you call in. Sir, thank you for volunteering at the TA tailgate. Darby mentioned that and gave you a shout out for that, so definitely appreciate it.
Funny enough, I got sunburned somehow in 50, 60 degree weather and clouds. I still get sunburns somehow.
That's funny. But hey, man,
lesson learned, sunscreen.
Sunscreen, man, you got a sunscreen, especially out there. But hey, man, again, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Have a good one. And thanks again.
Thank you so much, man.
I'll take it easy. Thank you.
We will. Have a good night, man.
You too.
Bye. So Jake tipped us $10. He says,
snap.
Awesome podcast.
Ooh.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your donation, Jake. We really, really, really appreciate it. And thank you, everybody who's watching right now. Phone line is open again. So if you guys want to give up your hot take or anything, be sure to call us at 956-622-5977. As you can see right there.
Yeah, you've only got 35 minutes at this point because we are not going past 9 o'clock tonight. I'm putting my foot down very strongly. We are not going past 9 o'clock tonight. So if you don't call in soon, you're not going to get on. Cisco, I'm looking at you, Mr. I'm going to call into the show. I got some stuff to talk about. Not calling you out specifically, but yeah, I'm calling you out. Bro, you can't say you're going to call in and then not call in. And the same goes to Josh Duplantis, who said on Twitter that he was going to call into the show.
And I know he's around here.
Yep. So guys, you have 25 minutes to call in. No, I'm just kidding. You have 35 minutes to call in. But yeah, definitely if you guys, look, we're at that point of the show where we could start up another discussion about, about the Toros or about the Dash. Look, the Dash season starts in just a little over a month at this point, and they look like they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the NWSL this year. Bringing in Christine Nairn is a fantastic move. Bringing back Ari Romero is thank you levels of awesome. And they already had a great team to begin with, so you added a couple of additional players that are also really good, and then a player as well that was part of the UNC team that made it to the NCAA College Cup and Women's College Cup and won it. Mm-hmm. That's also signed on with the Dash. And look, they've released the Slice videos about the Dash preseason, and I can tell you that from watching those and just from what I know, that these girls are absolutely amped to have a really good season this year, and they are set up to have a very good season. And I told you guys before that I was extremely excited to have James Clarkson as the head coach, not because of his pedigree, but because of what I'd heard about how he was being very open and inviting to ideas from both players and existing coaches. And he's proven to be to not be an ego. And I think that can be a problem sometimes, especially in NWSL soccer or NWSL, is that sometimes you can get coaches that are egos that just make it difficult on the ladies to do their jobs. And I don't think James is that way. And, this is their opportunity to win this fan base over from a Dash perspective, from an NWSL perspective. And look, they've been on the cusp of being a good team for 4 years now. It's time for them to take that leap and not just make the playoffs, but make some headway deep into the playoffs. And I think they're primed to do it this season for sure. Jake says the first match of the season is April 14th versus Seattle Reign FC at 5 p.m. And so, yeah, I mean, their season is just right around the corner, and we're going to start talking Dash. So, look, be real. If you're not a fan of women's soccer, this is probably not the right podcast for you, to be totally honest. We support women's soccer, and if you've never been to a women's soccer match and you don't support women's soccer, you need to get to a women's soccer match because it will change your view of soccer.
We have a call.
Oh, sweet. It's probably Cisco.
Welcome to Generation Orange. Who are we speaking with?
Hey, it's Pat over here in Florida right now.
What's up, Pat?
What's going on, Pat?
Oh, dear Lord. Nothing much. I told you I wanted to call in to talk about these new jerseys this year.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, yes, you said you wanted to talk about the quality of jerseys.
Oh, sorry.
So basically it all started with, everyone's favorite, Webb. He posted on Twitter very upset because his jersey is literally unraveling by the thread after like 2 weeks into ownership.
Mm-hmm.
And mine started as well. After wearing it 3 times, 2 washes, I have literal just loose threads everywhere on my jersey, just coming apart. And I know Ben, aka I think Panic House on the chat, he said it started like unraveling as he like took it from the team store back to Huntsville, Alabama, like 8 years away where he lives. I'm kind of wondering what the hell's going on with Adidas this week. So, because Darby mentioned on the chat that they've deleted one of my comments on Instagram because, yeah, I got so upset I went full troll mode on them on Instagram. It's just kind of wondering what's going on with Adidas and MLS this year. Edson, you seem fashionable. You know what's going on?
Oh, I'm sorry. Wow. Oh man, that hurt to laugh that hard.
It's it's interesting. So here's the thing, and I have a feeling that because I know Webb's was the authentic version, and it's a completely different.
And I'm on replica.
Okay, so it's on both, no matter what. So a couple of, because I know it was talked about on Twitter on a couple of Spanish speaking. But that's all they talk about. Those Twitter accounts are all about football, soccer jerseys. And they analyze everything. And one of the things that they did point it out, they didn't specifically talk about the Houston Dynamo kits, but Adidas in general, the quality of the threads has gone down considerably in the past 10 years. I have a Tigres kit that I bought from 2010 that has no threads whatsoever. If anything, it was the whatchamacallit, if y'all remember the authentic little holographic button, or not a button, but a little sticker that Adidas would have on, that fell off, but that's about it. Other than that, it's amazing. But nowadays, like with this newer jerseys, like it's true, like any little thing, like if you have just a little piece of nail sticking out, or if you just happen to brush up against a wall, you just see all these little threads like little popping up, or it looks like really scrubbed. I have the Dynamo, the black kit, the painted black one with the V, and I'll go ahead and bring it so you can see it. But there's a couple issues with it. The Forever Orange that's kind of printed on the inside of the neck, it's washed away to a point where you can, like, it's kind of stuck to the spacey blue part of the neck, and it has those things where it looks rubbed off on the kit. So yeah, Adidas actually to me, as the quality has gone down really, really bad. I don't know if it's a cost-cutting measure or it's the fact that they're using plastic-based materials more and more on the mainstream kits, but it is a problem, especially with the authentics, which have like holes, little holes or pores through them. I think that makes it worse. And when I saw Webb Tilton's picture of that, I was like, no, I'm not buying the new one because of that. I'm spending a lot of money for a kit that's probably not gonna last. Heck, the Toros black jersey, I wore it to playing soccer as a goalkeeper. You know what? Perfect condition still.
Yeah, this is the first year it's happened to me because, like, I got about 7 other jerseys from the Dynamo, and I'll wear them while setting up tailgates and all sorts of shit and, like, physical labor and all that. This one, like, I've worn it, like, twice, and I just got loose threads everywhere. Like, it's just unraveling in real time. It's nuts. And it's just like, I feel like we're like one famous Twitter celebrity away from a recall. Like, it's ridiculous.
Well, something's gonna have to be done with QA with Adidas US, or in all the fabric shops that make the thread or the fabric for these kits. Because, this is just bad PR on them. I mean, Adidas US has already been under the public scrutiny because of the white kits, the fact that they're not selling long sleeve shirts anymore. And then now you add this, the poor quality. Oh, and I just, although I think this wasn't on Adidas, but there's also the bad PR with, I just saw something about Impact Montreal ordering kits, and they received Vancouver Whitecaps kits. Oh, that's gotta suck. So just real quickly, because David says he says it's not just another reason for him not to buy the new Mexico jersey. And Callo says, yeah, they snag super easy because of the full mesh front, but I have some Umbro and Macron kits that are the same. My old Macron Aston Villa kits unraveled at the bottom week 2.
Wow. Okay. All right. So outside of the jerseys, I got something else for y'all because you guys are a lot smarter and more into the analysis on soccer. But we brought up Kyoto a few times, but I mean, does he seem to be a bit more hot-headed and immature this season, or is it just me?
Seem to be what?
Hot-headed or immature?
No, he was the same way last year. He's a player that has a lot of passion, plays with a lot of passion. He has an ego, and sometimes that can get in his way. I don't think that's the root cause of his struggles this season. He's traditionally been a slow starter to MLS season. So I think he's one of those guys that, we need to, if he's going to be around here next season, we need to be aware that he's going to be a slow starter and, maybe give him a few extra matches, where he gets to start on the bench next season to start the season instead of, starting in the starter position. But no, I don't think he's any more hot-headed than usual. He's traditionally, last year he had plenty of matches where he was very, very visually upset. And he made demonstrable actions to voice his displeasure. And I just think that's the type of player he is. He plays with passion. We've seen it from really good players, elite players in other leagues that, they have egos and they hate being subbed off the pitch, or, they feel like they should have been left on the pitch longer, or in case of Champions League, where you had a player that his coach was trying to sub him off in extra time and he wouldn't go off the pitch. And so ultimately he stayed on the pitch and ultimately ended up costing his team the game. So I just think there's players like that, and we have to understand that some personalities are different than others. And I think he's definitely one of those personalities that just can tend to be, way more emotional in the moment. And it is something he probably needs to work on again. Just reminding himself that, it's okay to be subbed off. It's not coach saying you're not good enough. It's just that you're struggling right now. And there's other players that deserve the same opportunity you've had coming in. But that, again, I think that's just how he is. So.
Okay. Yeah. I just needed someone with a better memory than me, because I was worried his ego or his mentality would be lower with, everyone else being in the news about being signed by an EPL team or whatnot. He was worried he wasn't in the conversation, because on social media, he's very me. So I was worried the whole rumors with, Minotas and Elos would get in his head. And I'm sitting there going, does he seem more immature or acting like an idiot more so than usual? Or I just don't remember, the past 3 months of my life more so than usual.
One way to remember better the past few months of your life is to drink less. Just throwing that out there, Pat. Just throwing that out there. But seriously, Pat, hey, thanks for joining us. We do need to actually let you go. We're trying to keep the phone line open. We're trying to get Cisco on here. He's being a slacker. But we definitely appreciate the call in.
And
anything
Jake.
Else? If Jake's going to call in, yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, thank y'all.
Thanks,
Thank
Pat.
you.
Have a good one.
Bye.
I want to throw out there, Sarah made the mention that right now Dash tickets to the opening match are currently buy one get one free, and ticket prices as low as $15.
Yes.
I've seen Dynamo fans moan and groan about price of tickets. I don't know who they're going to for price of tickets, but you're not going to beat $15 for a Dash ticket and then a buy one get one free at that. That means you're paying basically $7.50 per ticket, and I'm telling you, the experience at a Dash match is worth it. Definitely worth it for less than $10 a ticket. And enjoy the experience, but also go give a shout out to Sarah and Jake over at Bayou City Republic.
We have another call.
I'm hearing it. I'm loving it.
Just before we go on with the next call, I want to give a huge shout out to Blues fan who tipped us $20. He says, by the way, I bought my Texian Army scarf and then proceeded to lose it in the stadium. Let me get
We'll get you taken care of. Don't worry about that.
Thanks for hitting me up about the opportunity to help out TA. We'll be excited to help out again at the next home game versus San Jose. So, welcome to Generation Orange. Who are we speaking with?
Good evening, guys.
What's up, Cisco?
What's going on, y'all?
Cisco in the house, busted lip and all.
I'm good now. I'm good.
Oh, is it all healed up now?
Yeah, we'll see. For now.
I mean, hey, at least you get a couple more days to let it rest. That should help for sure. And Sarah also said, I'm going to throw this out there for anybody who's thinking about Dash tickets. There's no Astros or Rockets game that night, so the parking is going to be cheap. And being opening night of the Dash season here at home, that's really a can't miss match at that point. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Cisco, so what do you got for us, man?
Actually, I have a few things I wanted to talk about, so I'm going to kind of be all over the place, so kind of bear with me. I first wanted to bring up I guess you can kind of say my experience going down to Mexico and the Tigres match.
Okay.
So
keep going.
I guess leading up to the match, we were kind of given warning about the kind of environment that we'd be going into and some of the things that we might possibly be seeing. So I was pretty much expecting the worst, not really having gone to a match in Mexico. And so it was kind of, my mind was all over the place. Are we going to get into some fights, or, is it going to be, punches thrown, or are they going to throw pee at us, like I've heard them say in the past, or are they going to throw poo and stuff like that? So, my mind was just all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So, pre-game, we met up with one of the guys from EB. He has a home down there in Monterey. So we kind of went over to his house, and cooked up some food, had a couple of drinks, whatever. Before the game, we all took Ubers up to the stadium because they said it would be safer than taking the bus, I guess, to kind of stay out of the way of Tigres fans. So we just rode Ubers.
Yeah.
And we kind of picked a spot close to the stadium for everyone to be dropped off at, so we could kind of walk into the stadium together as a big group to be safe. So none of that went to plan. We kind of got lost. The traffic was horrible, first off. And so we kind of just said, okay, find a spot where you can get dropped off at, and we'll try to walk to a central location or whatever. Well, that didn't happen either. So we ended up walking maybe like 3 or 4 in the group to the stadium and try to, they gave us a gate to meet at so we could all be escorted in by security. So we all met up at the gate, and there was security there. They had like riot gear and all kinds of crazy stuff like that. So, you get there and you see the police there and you're thinking, whoa, this is out of my comfort zone or whatever, what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So we get there and they tell us, we can't bring in any banners. We're not allowed any scarves. If you have any belts, you're not allowed to bring that in either. So basically anything that they could consider a weapon was not allowed into the stadium. So basically just your person was allowed into the stadium. So they escorted us in and they took us all the way up to the top of the stadium. It's probably about 40, 50 of us. So we get in. First impression of the stadium is, wow, this is a good-sized stadium. And by the time we got in there, I think it was about 30 minutes before kickoff, and it was pretty full. It wasn't to capacity yet, but it was getting there. So player introductions coming out, and then, they have fireworks and loud noises and drums, and everyone's just singing and chanting. There's flags going everywhere and confetti and streamers, all the stuff that we're not allowed to have. And it was just pretty cool, to see everyone standing and chanting and screaming out players' names and everyone in unison, whatever. We're starting a "Let's Go Dynamo" chant. We're trying, but we're getting drowned out by the Tigres fans. But, we're shouting and screaming and going as hard as we can. But, it's kind of pointless. So, game's going on, and, we're doing our thing. They're doing their thing. And then I think second half, they play this, I don't know, maybe Edson knows, I don't know. They have a song that they start playing, and then, it just goes quiet, and then the entire stadium is just, chanting in unison. It's, pretty eerie, but, in a cool way.
Oop.
And our guys were chanting, and then, I just kind of, looked out towards the stadium, and I'm, in awe, of everything. I'm trying to take it all in. And one of the guys looks at me, and he's like, "Hey, you're not chanting, And I'm like, hey, I'm trying to, see what's going on here, My first experience, whatever, I'm trying to take it all in and stuff like that. So I was kind of in awe, like I said. But that was a pretty good experience. The stadium was nice. The fans were great with us. All the things that they had warned us about and tried to prepare us for, it was nothing. I don't know if it was overblown or the fact that they won, that, no one really tried to pick any fights with us, but it was fine. I think if security was not there, we probably still would have been okay. But, after the game, we had a bunch of Tigres fans coming up to us and telling us we had played a good game, shaking our hands. A bunch of the guys wanted to take pictures with us and stuff like that. So it was pretty cool. So, nothing but respect. I mentioned it before for the fans down there. They were nice to us, gracious, and I appreciate everything that they did for us. So just want to say thanks to those guys. And, going back to, experiencing a game in Mexico and, the environment and the passion that those guys have and show down there, guys and girls. kind of leads me to a story from this past weekend at our home game. We have a guy in the band. He plays trumpet. It's his first year also. And he brought his son along with him. He's probably about 5 or 6 years old. And it was his first game also. And you could tell, he was kind of new because he was nervous and he was, he wanted to stand by his dad's side the entire time. Whatever. And so it comes time for us to march in. Everyone's grabbing their instruments and their drums and banners and flags and stuff like that to get ready to march in. And I guess someone got the idea to give his son a flag for him to hold and wave, whatever. And, he kind of, looked at it and it's like, what do I do with this or whatever. But, once we got in the stadium and marched around the concourse, he's waving that flag in the air crazy. And he's got the biggest smile on his face, like, it's the best thing that he's ever done. And you can tell he's having a good time. And the game hasn't even begun yet. And so while I'm playing and I'm kind of looking over at him because he's standing right beside us because his dad's right next to me. And you want to keep him close, but I'm kind of looking over at him, and he's, like I said, his eyes are just lit up, and he just has like a really, really, really big smile, and it just kind of, at that moment, kind of made me remember, why it is I got into, into the Dynamo and stuff like that, and I think a lot of people forget. Why it is that some of us get into the sport and how involved we get, because people get so wrapped up in results and winning and losing, and it's about winning and losing, but it's not all about winning and losing. It's about the experiences, like you mentioned before, and friends and the environment and memories, pretty much that you create when you go to a game, and I think people forget that, and I think it's time to go back to basics, and just go to a game just to have fun and forget about everything else,
For sure, man. No, I completely agree. I think there's a lot of people that have been Dynamo fans in the past that have, forgotten what drew them to the Dynamo. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head that, it's we need to get back to the days of just having fun for the sake of having fun at a Dynamo match, and not, and I kind of mentioned earlier, not relying on the team to, necessarily be the one to lift our spirits. They've obviously done a damn good job of that this season, but also understanding that, what drew us to the Dynamo, is the same thing that's going to draw other people to the Dynamo. And, if we want to grow the fan base and see the fan base grow, then, we have to be willing to put in effort and do our part to make that happen. It's not, again, it just doesn't fall on the club to make the experience. We're just as much part of that experience as the Dynamo.
Edson, thoughts?
I personally think, and you talked about it with this whole, making it an experience. I feel like, I don't know what the hell MLS is thinking, or the Dynamo or BBVA Compass Stadium. I don't know who's responsible, but I don't know what they're thinking, getting rid of streamers.
It's MLS.
I don't know what the hell they're thinking. It's like Callow said, kids getting a hold of streamers, something they can throw, like it gets them excited. We talked about many times that how important the involvement of kids is to the development of the fan base, and you're getting rid of all of that just because a couple of fans decided to get mad at the referee and throw some cups or something. It's paper. It gives color. You saw it, and Cisco saw it with Tigres. Everybody brought in their shredded papers, their streamers, and But am I lying when I say that it made the stadium more beautiful, Cisco, with that reception, that kind of reception?
Oh, it was gorgeous, man. And I mentioned it to someone there in the stadium. I was like, man, I'm absolutely 100% jealous. And I won't be telling that to people because then they'll think I'm Tigres fan. But no, I wish we had something like that.
And guess what? That was all with the. I don't want to say like it was funded by the team, but no. But the team, the team's FO gave it their blessing of being able to do these kind of things. You go with our neighbors, with the Rayados, and they're pretty much like what BBVA and MLS is doing. No streamers, no tifos, nothing, and it's just so bland, so boring. And we need to bring the color back to MLS stadiums. Why are we becoming the NFL of soccer? When it comes as no fun league.
Even the stadium, you walk into the bleachers and the aisles, and it wasn't anything special. It was just like that cut up pieces of paper, like newspapers, magazines, and things of that sort. That
somebody even threw their homework.
People spent their time at home cutting up pieces of paper just to have to throw. Nothing expensive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as far as your experiences with what you're telling me about that kid, that's just pretty much the beginning, and I applaud EB for going through with that, and supporters groups welcoming children into their environment and getting them instilled to supporting the Dynamo at such a young age.
Yeah, and I almost kind of want to throw it out there and say, if anyone wants to come by and pregame and march with us, or even during the game and hold a flag or hold a banner or something like that, you're more than welcome to, if it's going to help. Yeah,
definitely. Just be sure to keep an eye out on social media whenever they do post when and where they're gonna be. So if you guys are interested in marching in with El Batallón,
King's Court, that's where they're gonna be. They don't need to pay attention to Twitter for that. King's Court, that's where they'll be.
And you'll see them. They're usually out there at the streets, playing, chanting, before they actually march in. And it's not something you're gonna miss because it's pretty loud. And everybody goes out of their way inside the stadium to watch them go as they go in.
And I wanted to. You guys have yet, but Brian just sent me a picture. I don't know how he managed to do it, but he snapped a picture of the kid with the flag, so that's pretty neat.
I have no idea. I don't have it yet. So I'm Brian to send it to us, I guess. But I wanted to throw this out there. Probably. Jake mentioned also, guys, that they're in section 134, and he mentioned that they're going to be pre-gaming for the Dash for Bayou City Republic will be pre-gaming at 8th Wonder before the April 14th match. So if you guys are going to that match, definitely go say hi and pre-game with them. I'm sure that they will be more than happy to hang out and pre-game with you guys for sure if you show up. Hey, Cisco, man, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it as always, sir. Appreciate your point of view and your perspective, especially having traveled to Monterey and getting that firsthand experience and sharing that with us. We definitely appreciate it. No other radio show, internet show, or podcast currently has that going for them. So I'm just going to throw that out there. 1 in a million, baby.
Yeah, I made it there and back. I'm safe in one piece, and I was not questioned once, so I'm thankful for that.
That's awesome, actually, and I'm glad that you had the experience you had, and you were, like I said, it was really nice for you to be able to share it, and I think it speaks to how the experience can be here. It's going to take work and it's going to take time, but we have to start at some point, and it's got to start with us. We can't rely on the front office to do it, and it can't be solely on the front office to do it. I guarantee you fans down in Tigres are not waiting for the front office to make statements and make moves. They're out there supporting one way or the other, and they're organizing stuff themselves. So, it falls on us to do the same thing.
Correct.
Especially if we want that atmosphere. Like I said, Cisco, thanks again. Hope you have a good one, man. And I'm sure I'll see you in the coming weekends somewhere, somehow.
Also, real quick, I wanted to say we kind of talked about it earlier before, but about the Tigres and Dynamo, comparing environment statements and things of that such. But the Tigres has 60 years and Dynamo has 13. So, to say we want something like that, of course, is going to take time. And
we got 47 years. We better get on it.
We got to start with the kids. We got to start with the kids and have them grow up, living, breathing, and bleeding orange, so their kids can grow up and do the same.
Here's a quick difference before we let you go. So here's a quick difference, and it was a key part in that the Tigres fans and the Monterrey fans are where they're at right now, and it was the media. The media being able to cover them, being able to provide the passion for these fans. Might have gone overboard somewhat and making it kind of like hate each other kind of thing, but that the media helped out, the local media helped out in bringing in the passion and to where it's at right now, where like it might not even be game day and there's Tigres and Rayados fans wearing their jerseys every day. And I think this is one of the things that lacks here in Houston, and I think somebody needs to get on the roll with that.
For sure, because I wear my Dynamo gear any chance I get, and I think it's pretty sad that when I do, people think I play for the team, and I don't think I look anything like a soccer player.
No comment, Cisco. No comment. All right, so Cisco again. Thanks for joining us, man. Have a good night. We'll holler at you later.
All right, you guys do the same. Thank you for the show as always.
Thank you.
Absolutely, man. Our pleasure.
Have a good night, man.
Good night.
All right.
We got 2 minutes. I think we should just close it up, man. Close up shop for the night. It's been a long night, and my voice is going steadily, going further and further away from me. Guys, thanks for joining us in chat. If you're in chat, do us a favor real quick and like the stream and the video and share it out on social media, whether that's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit. I don't care what platform you're part of. Do us a favor and share it out. It definitely helps us get more coverage, get more viewers, get more traction into the Houston market and beyond. Next week we'll be talking something else. I don't know what yet, but with the international break, we don't have as much Dynamo to talk about, so maybe we'll hit up a little bit harder on the Dash and RGV side of things next week. Edson, what are you guys talking about tomorrow?
So tomorrow we're going to be talking about the match against Fresno FC. We're going to be talking about the unexpected reaction from fans. Expected, unexpected, I don't know how you want to see it, but after the match, a lot of fans booed at the team for their bad results.
Did you happen to see Darby's comment in the YouTube chat here just a few minutes ago?
No.
Because I think you should open your show tomorrow with that statement, with that comment.
Oh, okay, I see it. I think. See, here's the thing about that, but we'll talk about it tomorrow. Tomorrow we're also going to be talking about the next match, which is going to be against El Paso Locomotive, and I'm probably going to go on a rant as to why there's people still thinking that Jerson's got to go from the Toros, and I want to call him out and prove him wrong. And Jacob also has a rant of his own. So
nice.
So be sure to tune in tomorrow at 7 p.m.
Like Sarah and Jake said, we will be talking a lot of Dash next week, hyping up that train before the Dash season. It's going to be a lot of fun. You guys are going to want to tune in next week. I'm working to try to get Hal on. I don't have a firm commit yet, and if Hal can't make it on, I'm going to try to get Jen on. So we'll definitely have some Woso love in the air next week for sure, one way or the other. Blues says, have we mentioned that Cisco and Kevin Garcia haven't appeared together in the same room ever? He might very well be right about that. Maybe Cisco's actually Kevin Garcia in disguise. That feels like the perfect note to end the show, Edson.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Be sure, like he said, be sure to like that video. There's 15 watching. There's only nine likes. What's going on?
It's at 10. It's okay. It's going up steadily.
But thank you guys for all of your support as well. Thank you, David. Thank you, Jake, and thank you, Blues, for your all's donations. We really greatly appreciate it. It helps us continue funding this show as well as Down in the Valley. So thank you guys. We'll see each other next week. Take care. Hashtag Forever Orange.
Hashtag Somos Toros.
Hashtag #TFON and
hashtag We Are Gen Orange.
And hashtag Do Our Part.
That's right.
Take care. We'll see each other next week. Have a good
Later,
day.
guys.
Bye.